So I'm going to start with a little introduction about the SFSS. And the SFSS is basically why we're hosting all these workshops. We not only do we host workshops, we also have a lot of services like the UPass, the health and dental plan. We also have a food hub program where we give free groceries to people at the Burnaby campus. But basically, we're the SFU's student society, and we represent all undergrad students. There's like 26,000 of you. And yeah, so we basically host these workshops. And if you want to know, so many people joining now that the email has sent, sorry.
You can keep talking. I'll just start admitting people.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so if you want to know more about these events, feel free to check out the events Instagram at SFSS_events. Our general Instagram is SFSS_SFU, and that's more for like services and like board meetings and other things. The events one is specifically for events and workshops like this one. Like for example, we had a graphic design workshop a while back last week. And in the future, actually tomorrow, we're gonna have a pet social. So bring your pets if you have any. Just check us out at SFSS_events and you can find all the information on there. And yeah, I'll pass it on to Shay to introduce herself.
Okay. Hi, my name is Shay. I am actually a third-year student at SFU as well. I'm in the Faculty of Health Science and also doing a business minor. Why I wanted to host this workshop is because I actually have a blog. It's just my name, shayhayashi.com, where I help students become more organized, more productive. So I share a lot of free resources, study tips, and a lot of content that's really useful for students. And in today's workshop, I wanted to help you guys out and talk about the basics of the bullet journal. I'm going off of Ryder Carroll's the bullet journal method, which is like the original bullet journal method. So the first part of the workshop will be me explaining the basic concepts of bullet journaling. And then in the next half or 2/3 of the workshop will be actually us working on certain spreads that are useful for students and also to start the October spread for next month. And then you'll notice in the chat, if you haven't read it already, I'm sending it right now. You do need a bullet journal or some kind of dotted paper or grid paper. I would suggest going to the link if you don't have a journal already and clicking on the first link. And if you Control F and search for dotted, there's a download link for dotted paper. And while I'm going over the basic ideas, you can print dotted paper basically and print like forward and back, so double-sided, and print as many pages that you'll think you'll need. And then there's also a video there on how to staple it so you can make a little booklet out of it, so you don't have to buy your own bullet journal if you're just starting out. And you'll notice that I will be sending this message often throughout the workshop, and that's because some people are joining in late, and these messages, when you first come in, I don't think you get to see all the previous messages, so I do need to just keep sending it out so they have the links. So you could just ignore those messages. And then also throughout the workshop, I will ask if you guys have any questions, and during those times you could either just unmute yourself and ask questions or ask in the chat. And then while I'm talking, if you have any questions, you could just send it in the chat. And before moving on to the next portion, I will look through all the questions and answer it for you. So I just want to confirm that everyone can see the slide that I'm sharing. You could just say yes in the chat if you can see it. Okay, so that's good. So while I'm talking, you could get out all the supplies that you need for the bullet journaling. If you're starting out, all you'll need is basically a notebook. It could be line dotted or grid. Dotted paper is best for bullet journaling. And then if you have like colored pencils, highlighters, you can get those out too. And then we'll get started. So this is today's agenda. I wanted to first talk about what is a bullet journal. and then also talk about the tools that you need, and then also mention some brands of tools that people like using in the bullet journal community. And then talk about the basic bullet journal concepts. I mentioned Carol, or writer Carol, and he talked about the basics, and I'm just summarizing. And then we'll move on to making our own bullet journal. So the first thing, what is a bullet journal? It's a fully customizable planner. I did say planner here, but it's actually for anything that you want it to be. A lot of people use it for journaling. Some people use it as like a way to relax and they just doodle on it. And then it does help you become more organized and productive if you use it properly. And if you actually look at it every day, it's a good alternative to having a student planner that you can just buy online. Bullet journals usually have sections for your daily to-dos, weekly events, and monthly deadlines. And I'll talk later on about all of these sections. And then it also forces you to actively reflect on your day. And this is called migration, which I'll also talk about later on. But it's a method where you actually have to look back every single day and move things to the next day if you didn't get it completed. If you have like your monthly calendar, you can actually move it to your weekly spreads. And basically, it forces you to actually keep track of what you're writing down, what you got done, and what you still need to get done. And I like it a lot better than a basic planner or just using like an hourly calendar like Google Calendar, because you're more likely to actually keep track and write things down. And when you don't get things done, you don't fall behind because you know that those things still need to get done. And I know a lot of people like using like scrap pieces of papers to write their to-do lists, and a bullet journal is a good alternative to that because all your ideas are in one place and you're less likely to lose it as well. So this is a quote from writer Carol. The only thing that the bullet journal needs to be is effective, and how it can best serve its author is entirely up to them. So I'm not sure what your expectations were for coming into this workshop. So just in the chat, give me like your thoughts on what you think this workshop is and what you think you'll learn from here. And then I'll kind of talk on some points that I'll actually cover. And then if I don't cover it, then I'll note it down so I could even just write a blog post about it. Jennifer says, I want to get organized and actually remember / keep track of my goals. So we will talk about that. Christina, some new ideas about how to organize my bullet journal. So it sounds like Christina already does have a bullet journal. Emma, better Bujo organization and spreads. Zoya, a centralized space for all my work and being able to reflect on my goals on a basis. Tips for organizing, how to set up or start. So we have some beginners here. A better way to organize my bullet journal. Excited because mine is new. Yes, that's so exciting. I love having new notebooks. I get a little bit scared about writing in it for the first time. So I would suggest, if you have like that fear of messing up, to just do it with a pencil, and then you could go over with fine liners. Setup ideas, how to organize spreads. I sometimes overthink on my spreads. I do too. I usually go on Google or Pinterest to look at spread ideas, and I just copy off of it because a lot of the layouts are already somewhere out there on the internet. And Rachel says, how to remember to check off tasks and refer back to journal during the day. So that sounds like migration, which we will talk about soon. So the tools that you'll need, if you're a beginner, usually just the basics that you need is a grid or a dotted, which is recommended, or blank notebook. I really like dotted paper because you can actually count the dots and make straight lines and make like squares or circles. Grid is good as well. Why I prefer dotted paper over grid is that it looks much cleaner when you look at it. The grid has a lot of lines and it can look busy, especially if the grid is written with like really dark lines. But if you get like the Muji notebooks with the grid paper, those ones have really light lines too. And those are just like $2, I believe. And then you only basically need a pen. The bullet journal method actually just uses a notebook and a pen. And then if you want to get creative and if you want this to be a creative outlet for you, then I would say that you could also use colored markers, highlighters, pencil crayons, and then if you care about having really straight lines, then you could use a ruler. But if you have a grid or a dotted paper, usually you don't really need a ruler, and some people like the look of the organic lines. So just on the screen. So if you just have like a calendar with these kind of rectangles instead of having like perfect rectangles, some people prefer that. I usually go for this one because I don't like carrying a ruler around, and I'm more likely to actually set up my page if I have less tools and if it doesn't feel like a chore for me. And then for the grid or dotted notebook, if you feel like a bullet journal is going to be like your full-time planning thing, I would suggest to look in the description of the notebook that you're going to buy, and you want pages that are 100 GSM or greater. And that actually is referring to the thickness of the paper. And you want thicker pages if you're going to use markers on it or felt on it. And it makes it nicer when you flip the page. The next side will not have any bleeding going on. And then for pens, I really like using Muji gel pens. A lot of people do, and it comes in many different colors, and usually it's like $1 each. So it's a really good pen. And then if you're into other like colored pens or felt pens, then you could go for the jelly roll pens. I know they sell them on Amazon, and they have like the sparkly ones. I'm pretty sure like you've seen it when you were younger. And then if you're into like felt tip pens, you could just go for the Sharpie one, or a lot of people in the bullet journaling community, they really like the Sakura felt pens. I got a message. Someone said, I am left-handed and I'm concerned that when I write, I smear ink, any pens that don't bleed at all. So for things like that, I would not go with gel pens, just because gel pens take a while to dry. Felt pens should work a lot better. You might have to try different pens, and also you could wait for the drying time, because on bullet journals, you never really write like long sentences. That's the one thing that's great about bullet journal, is that it's very short and very quick to note down. So I wouldn't be that concerned about ink smearing, because it's not like an essay where you're writing a long thing. You're literally writing like study 2 hours kind of thing. And yeah, so don't go with gel pens. I would go with felt pens or like fine liners, which are the same things. And then for people who are into using colors, I started using the, what's it called? I don't have it on me, but if you click the first link that I sent you, there's also a link of things that I really like using. And there are these brush pens that I really like. I think it's called the Tombow brush pens. And that one comes in a lot of colors, but I would not recommend it if you're still thinking about starting a bullet journal, and because it is a little bit pricey, but I know a lot of people use the Tombow brush pens. Yeah, Rachel says, love the Tombow brush pens. I have the the pastel pack, which comes with like 2 sets of colors. So it's like it comes with a darker purple and a lighter purple, darker pink, a lighter pink, a darker yellow, and a lighter yellow. And I really like that because it makes my spreads look super organized, and I just use like 2 colors to use per month. And then this is a really long quote, but I really like this, and I'll just read it out loud. Bullet journaling is always about function over form, right? And to be very clear about that, form can mean sloppy or beautiful. It doesn't matter what your bullet journal looks like. It's about how it makes you feel and how effective it is in moving you towards the things that matter to you. And I wanted to add this before we start actually working on the bullet journals, because when people think about bullet journaling, I thought about this when I first heard about bullet journaling, is that it's going to be really time consuming. It's going to take me hours every single month to create like stuff for the next month. And I thought that it would be such a waste of time for me to work on it for so long. But in reality, like, your bullet journal can look however you want. And in every single spread that I'm going to talk about, I'll show you the bullet journal methods, what their spreads look like, because it's very simple and there's no doodling or colors at all. It's very basic, and some people would like that way more than the spreads that I usually do, which I do use color, and I do spend basically like an hour every month to work on the next month's. So it's really up to you, and you just want it to work for you. So all of the spreads that I talk about today, if you really feel like it's not going to be useful, then you don't have to use it. Jennifer said, to be honest, better than the hours I spent on Instagram. That's true. It really depends on what you prioritize, and if you like the way your bullet journal looks, or if you want it to look nice and you want it to be like this therapeutic drawing thing, then that can be what your bullet journal is. And if you want it to just be purely for organization and you don't care about how it looks, how messy it is, as long as it keeps you organized, as long as it's messy, but you know, like the messy organized when you have a very messy room, but you kind of know where everything is. That's what the bullet journal can be for you. So if you have any questions, just let me know in the chat. I'm keeping my eyes on that. So here are the 4 basic concepts of a bullet journal. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the index. Then we're going to talk about the collection, rapid logging, and then migration. So the index serves to organize the pages in your journal. So it's basically a table of contents. It's a really good idea to have it on your bullet journal because unlike a regular journal, it's basically you just adding pages as you go. So every single month, my spreads, they look really different, because for some months, for example, for September, I had spreads that summarized my semester, for example, and I would not do that every month. If I'm not taking courses in the summer, for example, I would not have those spreads. And let's say if I wanted to start tracking my habits, some months I may have habit trackers. So to keep everything organized, you want to either just get a bullet journal with numbers on each page, or you could number it by yourself and then put it all in the index so you know where all the pages are. You might never use it, but it's a good idea to have, and it's supposed to be right at the beginning of your bullet journal anyways. So if you're gonna start a new journal, like, I forgot who said it, but someone's starting their new book. So it's good to leave a few pages for the index. A lot of people just have 1 page or 1 or 2 pages. You don't really need that many pages. So next is the collections. There are 3 main types, but there are other ones that I want to talk about. And each collection has a topic. So for example, you could have a semester overview, which I will show you guys how to do today. But that should be indexed, so it should go back in your index. So the bullet journaling method, you'll see, is very methodical and every single thing is kind of written twice because you don't want to lose track of things. I've made this mistake before where on my to-do lists, I would forget to either move it to the next day or I would forget that I already did it. And it kind of makes me feel like I don't have my life together because if I don't get a task done, I don't want to forget about it, especially if it's an important assignment or, for example, you did do your assignment, but you haven't handed it in. I feel like that's a problem that you might have when your classes are online where you complete the assignment, but I don't know if you guys can relate, but I get scared about handing it in like right when I finish it. I want to just like sit on it and then hand it in maybe a day before it's due. So when it comes to things like that, I want to write in my bullet journal that I want to finish the assignment and then on a separate thing to actually hand in the assignment. And if you do it on a to-do list, usually you would just write to do the assignment and then you might forget later on to hand in the assignment. And then for the third thing is rapid logging. So I said earlier when I was answering the question about ink bleeding because of someone being left-handed, and I said that in the bullet journal, you don't really write essays. It's very short and it's basically like a collection of to-do lists. That's what rapid logging is. That's like the proper notation for the bullet journal method. And it's a short notation composed of a bullet and the signifier. And it's used in all the collections. So the collections being like a monthly calendar or a weekly calendar. And I'm going to go more in depth for all of these, but this is just like the main four. And then the last one is migration. I touched on it before, but it's the act of looking through all your collections and reflecting and then crossing out or removing them. So if it confuses you, all you need to know is that at the end of your day, at the end of your week, at the end of your month, everything that you wrote down in your bullet journal should be accounted for. So you shouldn't have tasks that are just left undone or, like little bullets should either have a cross or it should have a strike through. And I'll talk about what each of those things mean. So the first thing I wanted to go over is the index. So this one is from the bullet journal method. It's very simple. They didn't even write a table or anything, and it's on a blank piece of paper. So for theirs, they had a future log on pages 1 to 4, and you could see all that. They did indent to organize themselves. You guys could do that as well. And then here's a more complicated version of the index on the right, and this one's from Petite Melanie. But hers looks like a menu and it has a very pretty heading, and it really depends on the type of person you are and if you really care about how it looks. If you only care about using a bullet journal as a organizational tool, then I would say to just go with this because you're more likely to actually do it if it's very simple, because if you're having a really busy day and you're really tired, you're less likely to actually note down that you made a new spread. Jennifer said, tag yourself. I aspire to be the right one, but I am the left one in reality. Yeah, so it really depends on who you are. And, you can start off doing this, but then end up doing this instead. So it really depends on you. And then in the collections, here are the 3 basic collections that are mentioned in the bullet journal method. The first one is a future log. This collection is used to store dated entries that will occur outside the current month. So like I said, every single month you'll be making a spread for the next month instead of a planner where everything is like made. And on a planner, usually it comes with the monthly spreads. And if you get your syllabus, for example, in September, you can fill out all the months and all the due dates. But on a bullet journal, you might not have your whole semester prepared because it takes a while to make those spreads. So a future log is used to keep track of things that are gonna happen outside of your month. So let's say right now is September, but if you have things due in October, you wanna make a note of it, and that's what you would put on the future log. Jennifer says, my professors change their due dates all the time. Yeah, it does happen, and you can always just strike through all the things that are irrelevant and then move it around. The second one is the monthly log. The monthly log is a spread of facing pages that consists of a calendar and a task page. So the way they wrote their calendar, it goes from like 1 to whatever the end of the month is, and then they have the days of the week here, and then they wrote their important dates. The way I'm gonna do a calendar is gonna be like a regular planner calendar, but again, that one takes up more time. So if you purely want to not spend that much time on it, then I would suggest doing this type of calendar. And then they also have notes for the month on this side of the page. So this is the task page. They noted the tasks with a bullet, which I'll explain later, but they put all the tasks that are happening for the month. And they didn't really indicate any dates or anything, and it's because they're gonna migrate those tasks into their days later on. And then the last one is the daily log. Throughout the course of the day, simply rapid log your tasks, events, and notes as they occur. So if you look in here, very simple, they just put their date up here, and then they have like different symbols for different things. And then at the end of the day, they just move on to the next day. So this one is very simple. If you only plan your day by day, this is a really good method. But if you like looking at your whole week, because as students, you kind of know what things are due during the week, because usually you get all your due dates in the syllabus anyways. So for students, we're gonna end up doing a weekly log instead of a daily log, which will help you stay organized for the whole week, so you kind of know every single week what you should be doing. And most people like to take their weekends to plan out their next week. But if you like to go day by day, then this method is a good way to go. And then for custom collections, they don't really mention in the bullet journal, but on Pinterest and Instagram, there's a bullet journaling community, and they have a lot of different spreads that they use. So today we'll actually be making the weekly log, the calendar, the key, the brain dump, and then I'll talk about the mood tracker, having lists, grocery lists, financial tracker, or a habit tracker. You can have all of those pages. We just don't have the time for it today, but I just wanted to mention that you could use this book for literally anything, and it's good because it's all centralized and you can keep it in your bag when you go to school, but you could just keep it on your desk because we're doing online school. But everything is right there in your hands, and you don't have to worry about, oh, this notebook is for this notebook is for that. You just have one notebook for everything in your life. And then I mentioned rapid logging earlier. So it's made up of the bullets and signifiers. So for bullets, we have short form sentences paired with symbols that visually categorize your entries into tasks, events, and notes. So here, you can see that they used the dots for tasks. Some people like to use just a box, so you could also cross it out as you go. Most people would usually do that. If you're used to doing to-do lists, you don't have to follow the bullet journal method. You could use that as tasks. For events, they use a hollow bullet. And then for notes, they just use a dash, which most people do use for notes. And you can always change these bullets to whatever you're already used to. But if you want to just go with the bullet journal method, then these three are what you'll be using. And then signifiers are symbols that give your entries additional context at a glance. So there's one for priority and then one for inspiration. So beside your task, usually you can put a star beside anything. So this just means that it's a task that's a priority. This means that it's an event that's a priority. And then if you have a really important note, then you could put it beside. So you're more likely to look at those first. And then in the bullet journal, they use the exclamation point as inspiration. So they said song about vending machines. I usually do exclamations for anything that's important that I have to do first, because in my brain that like makes more sense to me, and I just don't use a star at all. But again, if you want to just follow the bullet journal method, this is how you do it. And then lastly, for migration, so when you want to migrate a task, you do this at the end of the day, at the end of the week, and at the end of the month. So every single day you have your things that you want to do and you have that written down. But let's say you didn't complete task number 8, but then it's not that important to you now. You don't actually have to do it. Let's say that one of your assignments is canceled, which is great. You could just strike it out, and that just means that it's irrelevant and you don't have to think about it anymore. And then let's say you completed task number 7. What you do is to just cross out the task. So again, if you want to just use a box, a lot of people do that because it makes more sense. Like that looks like a task that's done. And if you're not used to the bullet journal method, this just doesn't make sense at all. And then to migrate a task. So migrating a task is when you didn't complete a task, but you still need to get it done. So you want to move it on to the next day or any day that you want to actually get it done. For task number 6, you would just put a little arrow that goes to the right. And then if it's a box, you could do it like this, to the right. And then for events, you would start migrating events if you need to, but usually like events don't move unless you have meetings that move, then you could use the arrow to signify that. And then at the beginning of the new month, earlier I talked about the future log where you write down everything that's not happening in the month that you're in. But let's say we have things due in October, moving things that you wrote in the future log to the October, let's say, calendar is a form of migration. And then, so at the end of your day, all your tasks should be crossed out or striked out or moved to the next day or sometime in the future. And at the end of the week, your whole week, all the tasks should be accounted for, all the events should be accounted for. And then when you start a new month, all the tasks that you put in the future log for the next month, you want to move everything into the new calendar. So every single task is accounted for and you don't lose anything and you keep track of everything. So that's the purpose of migration. And then we're gonna move on to making your own bullet journal. I'll give you some time to print things out if you need to. And we can take some time to answer any questions you might have. But I'll also show you guys, I'll give you guys a preview of what my September bullet journal looked like, so then you can have some ideas. Can we use a digital journal? Yes, you can. I'll actually be showing you how I do it on the iPad because I don't really have a filming setup, so it's really hard to show if I was doing on my regular journal. So on a digital journal, I would suggest to either use OneNote because OneNote is free, or to use GoodNotes, which is my favorite way of taking notes. I'm using GoodNotes right now. It's this app, and you have like a lot of tools up here that you can use for bullet journaling. But it's a good way to do it. Does anyone need to print out their journal at all? Yes, GoodNotes. It's on the App Store. I'm not really sure if they have an Android version. There's also Notability, which is a different journaling app. Yeah, and then I think if you have an iPad, for example, it does come with the Notes app where you could also just draw on it as well. So before we get started, I'll just show you guys what my September looked like, so then you guys can have an idea of what kind of bullet journaler I am. So this is what my September looked like. I started off doing this, and then I like these lemons better. So that's what happens. Like, if you're a perfectionist, you'll realize how like bullet journaling is a really good way to get used to like making mistakes and then not being able to do anything about it and being okay with things that are out of your control, because these lemons kind of bother me, but I don't really care that much anymore. But here I have my mini calendar. I like adding mini calendars to refer to dates. Rachel's perfectionist, yeah. I have my mini calendar, so it's like, oh, when's the 17th? I could see that it's Thursday. And I just like having a title page, so if I'm just flipping through my bullet journal, I could see it right there, and I know where September is. And then this is what my calendar looks like. I said earlier, I really like having like organic lines and having like very not straight lines. So this is what it would look like if you do that. I have my ugly lemons there. And then on the side, I really like having a spot to write notes. And then I have a section for October. I haven't written anything because I ended up making a different spread for writing down things for the next month. But then you could see over here, I have things crossed out because it's done. But yeah. Someone asked me what bullet journal I use. This one is from this brand. I think it's called, here, I'll type it, but it's just a bullet journal I found on clearance at Staples. And I really like the size of the bullet journal, but the only thing I don't like is that the paper is really thin. When I started, I didn't really know that you had to get like a specific thickness of paper for it to not bleed. But yeah, if you just print dotted paper, I sent a link. I really like that one because the dots are very light. You can make your own bullet journal, and then you could change out the covers if you want, and then you don't have to carry as much, because right now I'm carrying a lot of empty pages, and once school is in session again where you like go into class, it's nicer to have a thinner notebook because you're more likely to carry it around and you can fit it in your bag. I have this brain dump page. I ended up using it a lot actually, and I ended up goal setting on this page too. I just write whatever. This is what I went with for September. It's a vertical spread, and then I put Saturday and Sunday all together. I'm not really sure if I like it yet. Yeah, I can go back to the brain dump. I just wrote brain dump here. I have my ugly orange again, and then I just have random things written down. It's a really good way to keep track of anything that comes up, because you're not writing on a scrap piece of paper. It's actually in your journal, and you can always refer back to it if you need to. And then for my weekly thing, I ended up this semester splitting each box into the classes that I'm taking. I'm taking 4 classes, and then I left the top open for other things that I'm doing, like my blog or events that are happening that day. And then, yeah, so I usually make the spread for all of September, so I don't have to keep making it every week. Some people do like having different spreads every week to try new things, or they just like doodling. So you could do that as well. And then this month I decided to do a grid spacing page where you would just number every dot that you have. It's a good way to know where your halfway line is and knowing how to split the page. Let's say if you need to split it into thirds, you know how many dots are across, so then you could just see how you can divide it into 3, and it's a good page to have. And then this is my semester overview. We're gonna do this instead of having a future log, because there's only 3 months left, and then we basically have 3 months of school. So what I did for this is, for each month of the semester, I split it into my 4 classes, and then I just wrote down every single thing that's due that month. So I only have my calendar set up, for example, for September. So I can only write down tasks in here just for September. And then all the due dates for other months, if I didn't have this page, then I wouldn't have a written record. It's all going to be on my syllabus and all out of the way. So I wanted to have this spread to keep track of everything. And then I put a key up here for what every single thing means. So for example, dots are quizzes. So all the dots that you see for each class, they're actually quizzes. And then next I have my course info page. And then here I just have a track of like all my classes, my profs, TAs, mark breakdown, which is really important because you can know what's important that semester to work on. So if you have an assignment that's worth more than a quiz, for example, you want to note that down and spend more time doing the assignment than the quiz. And then last here, I put notes, and I like to write if like readings are not tested, important things like that for when I'm studying. So we can actually get started now. So can everyone take out their bullet journal? So the first thing I wanted to talk about is themes. So you can pick either the basic bullet journal theme, which is this one, no doodles, it's just writing things down, an October related one, which I'll be doing, and then an easy one to do is like plants and flowers, like here. If you just Google, if you Google like how to draw a simple rose, you can see easy ways to doodle if you want it to be designed. So the first thing we want to do is the index, and we just have to include the page number and the collection. So if you have an index page already, can you say in the chat? I just want to see how many people are starting their journal brand new, or how many people already have these down. Already have one, but very new at bullet journaling. Okay, brand new. Okay, so I'm getting more people saying that they don't have it than they do. So for Elise and Ekam Joe that already have the index page, you could just go take a break, go to the bathroom if you need to, or you could just keep listening. But here are the different index pages that I found online that I really like. So they just put like page number, topic. It's just a simple table. This is like a menu where they just wrote like dots and then a page number. This one's really cute. They used yellow for it. And they just have the page number and what they're doing. This one's very similar where there's just a line separating the page and what it's for. So on mine, this is a very simple but kind of cute way. I just included like yellow, whatever color you want as like your main theme. A lot of people use very basic themes for these pages that are going to be there forever. Like the monthly pages, you could do whatever because you're only using it for the month, but these ones you're going to have until the end of your bullet journal. So some people usually prefer doing it as a simple spread. So all you need to do is to count how many dots you have on your page, and I'll give you a second to do that. You could spend your first page doing a grid spacing page, which you could just do by basically numbering all the dots that you have. So Taha asked, isn't it better to do the index after completing the whole planning? That way we know which page has what content. So the purpose of having the index first is that we don't know what pages we'll have by the end of your bullet journal, like when you complete all of your bullet journal. And we want to have the index, which is basically a table of contents right at the beginning, because you can add as you go. So these pages are meant to just be basically empty until you start to put pages in. So for today's, for example, my page 3, for example, would have the October spread. That's the start of my October spread. And then I can indent for saying that my calendar is on page 4. And then, or 4 to 5, because calendars take 2 pages. And then 6 is week 1, for example. And then this page would stay pretty empty until you start your next month. And that's why we want to do the index before doing everything else. So in your whole new book, you want to leave 1 or 2 pages for the index. Does that make sense? Yeah. So then you could do it this way. And right now I'm just numbering all the pages, and you could take time to do that as well. So you could have your grid spacing page as like the first one instead of the index. So it's right there. Depends on where you want it. For my grid spacing, I didn't end up doing it until this month. So it's just in the middle of my book. So if you keep doing this, your grid spacing should just look like this. So in my dotted thing, I have 38 dots going horizontally, and then I have 50 dots going vertically. So once you have your pages numbered, please let me know in the chat. And then if you have any questions during this time, or if you want to share anything else, like spreads that you really like or a game that you've been really enjoying, just let me know. I'll just keep talking so it feels like one of those bullet journal making videos on YouTube. And then if you want to just unmute yourself because you don't want to type, you could do that as well. I don't mind at all. So I've been really into this game called Among Us. I feel like I've been mentioning it often. It's an app you can get it on your phone. I'm pretty sure it's available on iOS and Androids. And it's basically Mafia. Yeah, it's a really fun game. It's basically Mafia or Werewolf if you've played those variations. And you could just, basically, there's this one or two imposters in the game, and their purpose is to, sorry, I just got a chat saying that they feel like we're going too fast. If possible, can we get the PowerPoint or recording or both so we can go over this again? Yes, so this whole session is being recorded, and on my blog, I'll have my PowerPoint up. I can also send it to Jennifer if you want to send it over email as well, but you can refer to this anytime. And if you're scared about ruining your journal because we're being rushed, just work on it with a pencil, and then you could just go over it with a fine liner again. So yeah, the game, I suggest you play it with your friends because right now we are still in phase 3 of BC's restart plan if you're still in BC. And it's pretty complicated to see your friends, and you have to be basically outdoors with masks on. So if you're looking for a good alternative to staying at home, because I'm a homebody, I really like staying at home, I recommend playing that game. So on my grid spacing page, I did put the quarter mark in pink, so right here. So if I want to split my pages into quarters, I can that way. I also wrote down the half marks going both ways, horizontally and vertically. Yeah, so I'm gonna move on now to the index again. So here is an example of what you can do with the index page. Again, all you need to put is the page number in the description. So I'll show you guys another way of doing it. If you like this page, you can also just take a picture of it right now so you can refer to it later. And then I'm going to start working on a different kind of index and a different way of doing lettering. So if you have a highlighter, there's a really cute way of, oops, that's too thick. There's a really cute way of making your letters look better. A lot of the ones I see online, they're so cute. And I've always wondered how people were doing that. So if you have a highlighter and you write index, you could get a pen, and over top, you could handwrite. And then that's a really cute way of doing headers. I see it often online. And then to stay with the theme, I'll use the pink highlighter. If you want it super simple, my favorite way of splitting sections on a page is to just highlight the sections that I want to use. So I can either do it like this, pages, collection, or I could go like this, write pages, collection. And over time, you'll notice that you're more creative if you are going that route. You do that with your notes. Yeah, I really like writing really cute notes as well. It helps me actually like look back at my notes. So yeah, you could use everything that you're learning in the bullet journal for lettering, for example. 4 notes as well. And then how I did the look for this page, I just wrote mini boxes. So what I would do on page is to highlight first. I usually highlight first before writing so the pen doesn't smear. I highlight first and then write whatever I need to write. And then over the highlighter, I draw a simple rectangle. And then this is called a drop shadow, where you go like this. So you add 3 mini lines and then connect those lines so it looks like a little floating button. And you could either keep it like this, or you could fill in this portion so it looks more like an actual shadow, so it looks super 3D. So there are many different ways of like writing these little pages, and on your index you could do that as well. Another thing, you could go like, you could draw plants. I really like plants. My first spread ever on my bullet journal, I used plants. And then you could just draw little leaves. And it's super simple. It doesn't take that much time, but it makes it look like you put in effort, and we all like that. So here are some examples of what you can do with your headers. And then for the index, it's super simple. So it's just pages and collection. Since it's recorded, you can always refer back to it. And then I'm gonna move on now to the next spread. And if you need me to clarify anything, just let me know. The next thing I wanted to include was the key. It's basically the index, but for all the things that you use. So in this person, they used a box for a task, which I mentioned earlier. For them, they had a key for when tasks are in progress, they make it into half. Yeah, so then anything that you want to use, if you're used to doing things like this on your notebook, or if you already have a bullet journal and you want to just add a little key section, you can. This person has like, so instead of going like this, like the bullet journal, they used arrows for migrating. They have a little symbol for deadlines. This is really good to have as students because we have a lot of deadlines. They used a star for important. This one's super simple: to do, done, canceled, schedule, reschedule, note, event, important. So here are some ideas of the keys that you can use. And then I will note down the keys that they use. So again, I'm going to try a different lettering method. So at the top of your page, you just want to write what the page is for. So for this one, I'm going to handwrite key. And then I'm just going to outline this with a black pen. And everything that I'm doing right now, you could just do all with a highlighter and a pen. And it ends up looking really cool, and that you did something super special, but you, in reality, like you really didn't. Okay, so outline everything, and this is another way of making headers. It looks really cool when you zoom out. This ends up looking better on paper. My hands are shaky because it's kind of hard to write on a screen, but that's what you can do. And then for making rounded lines, all you need to do is to connect the dots and then leave empty sides, so empty corners, I mean. And then you could take a pen and then connect these lines. So you have a rounded corner thing in the middle. I really like doing this with my mini calendars, as I showed you guys earlier. And then here's the bullet journaling key notations. So they use a dot for tasks, a hollow one for events, and then this one for notes. And then they use a star for priority. And then an exclamation mark for inspiration. So you can leave your key like empty up here or down here because you might have different keys that you want to use later on. And it's always good to leave space so you can add things later on, especially for pages that are meant to be used for your entire bullet journal, unlike your monthly pages, which you only use for the month. I really like leaving spaces because I end up doing something different. So for students, I said earlier that it's good to add deadlines. So you could use a mini clock to do that and then write deadlines. Okay, so that is what your key should look like. I know if you're doing it on your new bullet journal, you might be taking a while because you want it to look really nice, but I'm just gonna move on and you can always refer back to these slides later. I will have them posted. And then we already talked about the grid spacing page, but again, you just want to count all the pages going to the bottom, going to the right, and then it's really good to have a halfway line or a quarter line because for most of the spreads, you do end up splitting your page into halves or quarters. And then for semester goals and plans. This one, I know it's already October and I'm not sure for the two people that already have bullet journals, I'm not sure if you have this, but for people who are starting a bullet journal, although it's October, I want you guys to still be ahead of your semester and it's a really good page to have. So I just got a question. Do you use washi or color tape or stickers at all? No, because it's just too much work for me, but I do know a lot of people that use it. And instead of doodling, for example, you could just tape the top and the bottom of your page, or you could use tape instead of highlighters to section out your page. So personally, no, I don't. I see a lot of people using bullet journals like a scrapbook where they rip out different pages from like scrapbook paper or just like craft paper and then stick it with a washi tape and it gives that really cute like rustic look. But personally, I don't do that. So for semester goals and plans, I said to include your class schedule, a semester overview, and your goals. So today I only want to do the semester overview and the goals because it's basically the third week of class. So I hope you know what your class schedule is like and you can always make the class schedule later. And then someone asked, what do you do when you run out of space in the calendar? So in my calendar, are you asking me for like this section? Yeah, so you can see that I really squish it, but if I run out of space for one of the days, I just put it in like off to the side or anywhere. It doesn't really need to fit into the lines because I'm the only one looking at it. And as long as I can tell that the task is for that day, that should be good enough. And if you feel like you're gonna end up using more space. Like for this one, I didn't use the spaces wisely because I left like one whole space, but you could just make like a grid, like basically make a big table instead of having these little boxes, and you can maximize your space that way. But you can always just put it off to the side, or just not put it in the monthly and then put it on the weekly page instead. Yeah. Gracie asked, not sure if this has already been answered, but what are some nice digital bullet journal options? So I said you could either use OneNote or GoodNotes. I really like GoodNotes for note taking. This is what I use for all my notes, and it comes with the dotted notebook option anyways. Here. So this is what it would look like if you're using GoodNotes to note take, and this is actually dotted paper, and then you basically have like infinite color options, and then you could also put in like custom colors if you're like really into that, and then you can also have like different colors of highlighters and things like that. So I highly recommend GoodNotes. I've been using it since basically first year. Can you save that to the cloud and access it on your phone? Yes, there's the iCloud sync for GoodNotes, and then you could download the GoodNotes app on your phone and then open it on there. But it would be hard to enter things unless you just type it in if you use GoodNotes. Yeah, so then for the semester overview page, this is what it looks like on my bullet journal. And I just copied it onto the digital one just so you guys can see it better. But I have a section where I put my classes. So this is a good time to log into your Canvas page if you don't have your syllabus printed out or anything, but you can put in the classes that you're taking. So for example, I'm taking 4 different classes here. I'll just zoom out so you guys can copy down the spread. Oops. Like that. And then another variation to doing this type of page where you're just making like a table, instead of making like lines and an actual table like my calendar, you can always make cute rectangles if you're into that. So again, I really like rounded rectangles over real rectangles like that. And you could do that for each one of the section and then fill it out if you're more into that look. And then if you logged onto Canvas and you have your syllabus open, you could do this for one of your classes. I highly recommend doing it now so then you have it started and then you could complete it later on. It's a really good page to have. So I'm gonna fill it out for my MBB class. So you want to put, so my prof is a doctor, so you want to note that down. So whenever you're emailing your profs, you can refer to them with the correct name. And then you want to add their email. If they give you their office number, you can add it on there too. And then I would also note down their, their office hours. So let's say it's Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. So you have all that information just central. And then if you ever need to email your prof, you could just look at this page and email them. Or if you need to go to their office hours, they do, like a lot of profs kind of get annoyed when you ask questions for information that's already in the syllabus. So it's all there and you don't have to ask during class. And then you can also write your TA's name, their email. If you have multiple TAs, you could also just put it all in the same section. And then also their office hours. And then it's also good to note down the section number for your class, because usually you need to enter that for your exam. I'm not really sure for online exams they're gonna end up doing that, but for in-person exams, let's say you're in D102, at least it's there for you to refer to if you're ever handing in homework, because usually it's not on Canvas and you have to log into like the SFU Sims website. So I like putting the sections down there. And then for course breakdown, I like writing down what things are due for that class, and then what percentage they're worth. So for this class, I have a 30% midterm, 30% final, 20% homework, 15% homework, 2.5% times 2 for quizzes. So I really like having the course breakdown somewhere where I can see it easily, because when you leave information all on the syllabus, you're usually not going to look at it until, like, I don't know, final exams, and you're like, how much is my final worth? And you want to keep track of how much everything is worth during the semester, so you know how much effort to put into each one. So for example, if I do bad on these quizzes, I should not stress at all about it, because it's only worth 2.5% of my mark. So if I do bad on these quizzes, at least I can use that as motivation to, for example, do better on the homework, which is 35% of my entire mark, and or focus more on the midterm or the final. And for this class, the midterm and the final, they're worth the same amount. So I would be putting the same amount of effort into both of them. So if you take in like stats 201 or 320, I think, online, it's like a 70% final. So that's something that you should focus more on, rather than like the little assignments that they give you throughout the year. And then in the notes, you can note down if a course is synchronous or asynchronous. And it's good to put that down so you kind of remember, what courses do I actually need to go to and what courses do I just need to schedule time to watch. And then I also write down if like the textbook material is not required or it is required. And that will come in useful for when you're studying for finals. And this page, it's really good to have every single semester at the beginning. So when you go to the first class, they tell you all this information anyways. And then they do tell you in the first class if your textbook is actually required, or if certain things you should focus on more, you can add all on the notes. So it's all there for you. Do you have any questions? No? You can always just send in the chat if you have questions. I'm keeping an eye on that. And then for semester goals, right here. So you can either write goals for the whole semester or just for October. And then for the October spread on my actual bullet journal, I think I'm just going to be doing a pumpkin theme because super cute and basic. Thank you, Jennifer. You can see that basically I only use the Tombow brush pens, which is basically a highlighter, and a black pen. And with just one highlighter color and a black pen, you can have like little doodles like this. And yeah, so for the goal page, you only want to focus on a few goals per month. You could just do one or two because when it comes to goal setting, it's best to focus on a few and make goals that are manageable so you're more likely to achieve them. And you don't want to overwhelm yourself by saying, oh, I want to start exercising, I want to eat cleaner, I want to study 100 hours a week for school and things like that, because you're gonna like burn out at some point, and like more likely than not you're not going to do all those things, and you won't be able to start so many habits all in the same month, and you're just gonna get discouraged, and you don't want to do that because you want to use goal setting as a way to motivate yourself instead of getting discouraged every month because you didn't complete your goals. So for this, I just put 4 different boxes for 4 different goals. So the first one is personal, second is health, third is university, and the fourth is social. And you can see that I like really divided up my life into these categories that I personally care about. So if you don't care about being social or whatever, then you don't even have to have those. These are 4 things that I care about, and yeah, you could change these categories to whatever suits you. I know a lot of people have like water tracking goals or like step goals, and that's a really good way to get started if you're trying to be more healthier or if you want to take care of your body more. So I'm not going to write my goals down because I don't know, they're kind of personal things. So I just wanted to show you guys what my goal setting page looks like. And then you could start working on your goal setting page even with just a pencil on your bullet journal. And then you could either do October goals or just a goal for this whole semester. So either a short-term goal or a long-term goal. For this one, it's just for October. And then while you're working on that, for anyone who's interested, I'll show you how I drew these pumpkins because they're so easy. So I really like using organic shapes and lines. Nothing I do is like that neat, in my opinion. So what I like doing is just drawing a random shape with a highlighter, and then with a black pen, the bottom of the pumpkin should be like a little butt, and then just draw a random shape, add lines, and then add a little tip. And that's how I draw pumpkins on my page. And it's really easy to just add little doodles onto your page to make it look cute. And obviously you don't have to do this if you're not into doodling or if you don't really care about how your bullet journal looks. And then you could also do this just with you could do this with just pencil crayons if you have a lot left over. I know I have like a box of pencil crayons from high school because I used them often, and then I ended up not using it at all in university. And if you're really into black and white lines, I have a friend that only does bullet journals with just a pen, and she does a lot of intricate art with just a pen. So it's really up to you. And like you hear me saying this often, that it's really up to you because your bullet journal should just be custom to what you need to do in the day, and you don't need to be like this, I like doodles, or I like having this really neat looking planner to be a productive person. Because I think when you think of a productive person, like what does a productive person look like? Most people have like this idea that they have like a perfect schedule and like their writing is neat, and they have this idea that like, oh, they have everything put together. But you don't have to be like that one kind of person to be a productive or organized person. But that's just my rant. I feel like there's like the standard set to be a perfect student, and it's really important to remind yourself that no one can be a perfect student. And for example, if you don't care that much about getting a really good GPA, like if you don't care about a 4.0 GPA because that's not what you value, all you care is that you learn what you're interested in, that's a really good goal to have. I just got a question. Do you have one journal for each semester, or just get a new one when you finish the first one, or do you migrate tasks to the new journal? So that's 3 different questions. The first one, do you have a journal for each semester? No, I don't have a journal for each semester. No, that's okay. She said sorry. No, it's fine. Asking questions. No, I don't have one for each semester. I just go with whatever pages I have left. You want to save paper as much as you can. That's why it's kind of good to have the printed journals. Like Jennifer can show you guys her like DIY journal. It's really cute. But it's nice if you make your own, because you could add as many pages as you want or as little pages as you want. But personally, I just continue the bullet journal as I go throughout the semester. I don't get a new one for each semester. And then the second, do you just get a new one when you finish the first one? Yes. I haven't finished a notebook in my life. I feel like I buy a lot of notebooks and I get really excited. So I have a stack of notebooks that I have to use for bullet journals. Me too, OMG. Yeah, I think a lot of people do this. And then the last question, do you migrate tasks to the new journal? Yes, you can Google how to migrate tasks to a new journal on YouTube, and there are a lot of bullet journal YouTubers that can show you how to do that. And usually you would have all of these basic spreads like the index, the future log, and you just have to migrate all the way. I've seen videos where people migrate in the middle of the month because they run out of pages. You can do that. There's like really no rule or set standard for doing these things. It's just up to you. So if you're very particular about having the full month on one notebook, then you could just migrate a little earlier if you feel like you don't have enough pages. So yeah, so I think I've spent enough time doing the goals page. This is my example. The slides will be up again, recording will be up, so we can move on. So the monthly log, that's what they use in the bullet journal. But I don't think that works well for students because most of the time people from like high school, for example, they give you calendars or like the high school agendas, and they do have monthly pages. And I think more people are used to seeing monthly spreads just like that instead of having a list like the one in the middle. So here are some examples of what people did. This person split their life into college, work, blog, personal. So they have all the days, and then they have sections for writing down things. That's a really complicated way of doing things. I don't recommend it if you're just starting off. This is more like what the bullet journal method, what they do. So for October, they have the dates over here, and then the day of the week here, and then they wrote important events that are happening that day. And then they also wrote a few things on the next page. And then what I highly recommend for students is to just have a written calendar like this. You have a lot more space to plan out for the whole month instead of having only one line to write and then having a separate page to write more details. I think this is a really good alternative. So this is what my monthly would look like for October. I use different colors, again, sticking with the pumpkin theme. Most people just keep a theme for the whole month. So they, for example, my last month was yellow and lemons and oranges. So that's what I kept for the whole month. For this month, I wanted to do pumpkins and like little fall colors. So you could either do a monthly page like this, where you have individual boxes, or you can do your page like this, where you have a table. If you have bigger handwriting, or if you just want more space, I would go with the one that's on my iPad right now, because you save a lot more space that way, because you don't lose these extra lines that I use as dividers. And then I'll just show you guys how I got the page to look like this. So I showed this earlier, but for using colors, I recommend highlighting first again. Gracie said she likes the muted colors. Me too. I have the pastel colors in real life, so I won't get to do this exact color scheme, but I think it's really cute to just pick colors that you really enjoy, or like go with the season. So for the winter, I'm planning on doing like navy and light blues because it reminds me of snow. So again, if you're doing this on real paper, I would suggest to highlight first so your ink doesn't bleed, and then do your writing on top. So you can see that I rarely use handwriting because I think it's not that like cute, my handwriting. So I just use like normal, like standard like letters. This is how my normal writing looks like. I tried making it cute with the handwriting. But yeah, this is what it looks like. You can always take a picture of it if you like my spreads. And I'm now noticing that it's 1:30, and it's scheduled to end at 1:30, I believe. Okay, so I will flip through all the spreads that I have in the next few minutes. You can take a picture of it. I'll post the slides again so you can work on it at your own time. This is what my brain dump page will look like. It's a pumpkin. And then since we don't get to cover the weekly pages, I just want to show you guys the different weekly spreads that people have. Yes, everything should be up. Can you unshare when you go through your journal so we can see them closer? What do you mean? Can you unshare when you go through your journal so we can see them closer?
Oh, I think unshare your screen so we can see your camera. So.
Oh. Are you able to just pin the shared one?
What I do is there's a divider in the middle and I just move it so that they're equal size, like the shared screen and your camera. I don't know if that works for everybody though.
I'm pretty sure you can pin videos. Can you?
Yeah, I have spotlight video, but then it also shows the screen right next to you.
I think, okay, Let us know if it works. You should just have a different, like a whole screen. I'm not sure if it's the same for everyone, but when I join Zoom calls and someone's sharing the screen, that ends up being like the biggest thing on my screen. But let us know. Sorry. This will all be recorded again so you could see later on. But before we end, I just wanted to go through all the different weekly setups. So this is basically what my weekly setup is right now for September. You just have 6 vertical lines, and then I just split my Saturday and Sunday all on the same box. And then some people like doing it this way. I did this for 2 months ago because I think this is the best way to save space on your bullet journal, is to split your page into 4s. Oops. And then have the second page do the same thing. So you have a box for each day, and then you even have a spot to write your notes if you need to. And then this is another spread where you split your page into 4s again, but horizontally. And then most people that have this page, they have to write their lists like in 2 different columns because it's not a very good way to use the space. But I've seen a lot of people who like doodling use this method because they have a lot more space to doodle on the side or at the bottom. And then if you don't have that much to write every single day, you could just use half the page of your journal to plan for the whole week. So this one, you split your page into basically mainly into 6 boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then if you want to split the 6th box into little squares, you can, because some people have less to do on the weekends than on the weekdays. For me, I usually share a box for Saturday and Sunday because I'm trying to change my schedule where I do less schoolwork on the weekends. And then here's another idea of a 1-pager. Going horizontally, but when you use this method again, you're probably going to end up using 2 different columns, but you still have some room for notes or decorations. And then you can also split it into 6 this way. This, you could also use like the scrapbooking method, so you could cut a piece of paper that's like into a square and then tape it on. And I think that would look really cute. This is another 1-pager. This way you can decorate here, write your notes here, and then you still have each box for every day of the week. So split it into 9. And then just take a picture of it if you're really into the spread. And this one is a 2-page spread, but if you only have on your to-do list ever just school things and personal things, which most people, their schedules are like that, you could spread your page that way, where you write all your school to-do lists on this side of the page and then your personal to-dos for this side of the page, but this whole entire box is for Monday. And then you would do the same for Tuesday. And then this is a good way to split your page if you have a lot going on. And let's say you want to have like a habit tracker for school, then you could have a habit tracker here. Or if you have weekly goals, you could add it here. So you could have a lot more sections using a spread like this. And then I have lastly some lettering ideas. I showed you guys some of them, like this one. This outline one, these ones, but you can always play around with different lettering. If you only want to use a pen, you can achieve most of these just with a pen. if you don't have a calligraphy pen, if you don't have a calligraphy pen, you could just try handwriting normally. And then where you have the downstrokes, you would just add these little things and then leave it like this to get this kind of effect. Or if you fill it in, those little holes that we made, you could get the fake calligraphy look. So if you're really into making your bullet journal cute, this is another method. Instead of using colors, you could just play around with the lettering. Whew. Okay, so that's all that I have for today. I'm sorry we didn't get to go through every single one of them, but all the slides will be up if you want more inspiration. And if you just go to my blog, I have a blog post up. It's 40 different October bullet journal ideas. Thank you, Jennifer, for sending the link. So yeah, you could head over to my blog and then look at all the different bullet journal ideas and then work on it at your own time, especially if you really like art. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And this is all recorded and it should be up within a week or so on the SFSS YouTube page. And then I'll be sure to post it on my blog as well. So many ways to reach. Okay, so you guys can go ahead if you have a class. I can stay behind another 5 minutes if you have a specific question. But if you go over to my blog, my information's there. You can also find, I don't know, my Facebook or my Instagram. You can find my Facebook through the Must Know for Courses. I've talked about it there. Yep, and my Instagram is posted there. And you can always DM me and ask me questions. Or if you have like a cool spread idea, forward it to me because that's so fun too. So thank you everyone for joining, and you could all leave.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Remember to follow SFSS events and always feel free to message the SFSS events page as well if you have any event ideas or if you have questions about upcoming events. Just make sure to follow, and yeah. I'm gonna stop the recording now, so you might hear like this recording has stopped.